Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our gathering hymn, This Little Light of Mine. It's number 118 in your gray hymnal. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Hillsborough, otherwise known as UUCH or OOCH. Welcome to our Sunday celebration, also known as our worship service. As Unitarian Universalists, we do not require that we all adhere to one specific creed or common belief. Here, there are no sacred texts. Rather, you are welcome to read all, none, any of the sacred text and believe what speaks to you. But as UUs, we do not have a single one. Well, several, not a single. Instead, we attempt to provide a supportive environment to all who seek some sort of religious faith. To some, religious faith means the belief in a deity or spiritual force. For others, it means a faith in the goodness of people. Personally, as an ethical humanist, I attend UUCH to refine my system of morality and to build a community of like-minded people. Collectively, we come together to support each other's search for truth and meaning. We strive to create what's called a covenantal community, which is built on promises to love, understand, be kind to, and listen to one another. So whoever you are, member, guest, friend, visitor, we welcome you today to our house of worship with open arms. And so if you would indulge me, if you would turn to someone next to you and welcome them and say, "Good morning." I love a little audience participation. My name is Allison Mahaley, and I am your worship associate for today. This is a role that is shared on Sundays by many members of the worship team. We are a lay-led congregation, and nearly every single person generously contributes to what happens here and behind the scenes to make our services and Sunday classes and activities possible. And we are so much more than just Sunday services. We celebrate a myriad of holidays, we take time to socialize, we take care of one another, and we engage in social justice activities. So let's give some hand praise to everybody who participates to make UUC great. Today, I also offer deep thanks to Heather Kraft. Heather and I both serve on the worship team, and we volunteered to put the service on today, the Sunday of a holiday weekend. And we are using a resource called Sermon of the Month. Heather has adapted the message written by Heather Januels, and I have chosen some of the readings, and in addition to those provided, and Aviva has prepared the music so that we can all enjoy Sunday morning service. So I'm glad you're here. I hope that you enjoyed the holiday, and remember, if you do not like the service today, come back next week. It will be different. Each Sunday after our sermon, we take up a monetary offering to support various worthy causes. For the month of November, wait, it's December. I got it. What? Which one is it? I got that part right. Orange County Justice United is an affiliate of the Industrial Areas Foundation. IAF utilizes a model of organizing for local issues by building relational power. UUCH is one of 21 member organizations in Justice United. The group takes on problems cyclically by holding listening sessions, choosing issues, researching solutions, building relationships with decision makers, and winning. Currently, we are engaged in campaigns centered on affordable housing and mental health care access for non-English speakers. Today, 100% of our collection will be donated to Justice United. Before we create our time for worship, I'd like to remind everyone that after this service, we will have coffee and tea. I'm not sure if there are any snacks, but maybe. And it's a time for visiting and socializing. So please consider staying and conversing with us. We would all like to get to know you better. Now, if you would flip over your order of service and look at all the announcements, and I invite anyone who has an announcement that's not on the order of service, that is brief, to come on up and share. And while they come up, if you would, please put your cell phone on silence.
Hello, everyone. Hang on.
There you go.
Hello. Okay. I am Amy. I'm the program admin. I'm going to just run through a few things here. After service today, Midco and GovCo are meeting. Midco's going to be in the library to start. Is GovCo going to?
We might squat in the RA room.
Okay.
Figure something out.
Okay. The holiday tree trimming on December 7th is tree trimming and sing along. That's also going to be parade prep. So if you want to participate in the parade or help out, come to that. Pathway to membership on the 15th. No need to RSVP. Just come if you're curious about membership at our congregation. And the Justice team is putting up a new bulletin board in the back of the building. Go check it out. It's super cool. Probably I haven't seen it yet. And Allison said to come back next week. So let me just tell you that next week we're going to learn about being in the presence of unpleasantness. Our speaker is going to be Donna Kay. And we are going to learn about how to be in the presence of people with whom we deeply disagree and even find unpleasant. That's all I got.
That's for Monday through Friday. If there are no more announcements, let's prepare ourselves for a time of reflection and celebration by reminding ourselves of who we are and why we gather. We are Unitarian Universalist. Unitarian Universalism draws from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together, and it is at the center of our shared values.
The chalice in the center of our altar is the symbol of our faith and our warm and bright love. By lighting it each time we gather, we remind ourselves of promises we make to live our shared values of interdependence, pluralism, transformation, justice, equity, and generosity. By lighting our chalice, we declare for the next hour that this is a sacred place. These words were written by Heather James. We gather in this sacred space, made more sacred in this moment by the presence and attention of each and every one of us. We gather with hearts broken, hearts open, seeking a greater, larger love. We gather, held in the embrace of both memory and hope. May our gathering be for gladness. Come, let us worship together.
This Sacred Place by June Faircruz. The gray of my hair, the wrinkles on my face, the crow's feet that won't quit. These are the sacred places of my life. The pain I felt when I was betrayed, the sorrow I felt when I was alone, the struggles I go through to redeem myself, these are the sacred places of my heart. The elation I felt when I knew the life beating inside of me, the joy of knowing I am no longer alone, the happiness I felt when I first saw my son's face. These are the sacred places of my memory. My hopes, my dreams, my prayers of what the future may bring, my faith that is unwavering, these are the sacred places of my soul. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123. Sharing joys, Sharing joys and sorrows is a special ritual included in our Sunday services. The ritual happens in two parts. First, we take time to share out loud, and then we make time to share silently. Each time that we share, we drop a stone in the vase on the altar, symbolizing a metaphoric communal collection of our experiences. By taking time to share, we strengthen the bonds between us. If you choose to share aloud, please rest assured that we will not record or broadcast what is being shared. Therefore, those of you joining online, there will be a short break while folks here speak. If you are joining us online and you would like to share your joys or concerns with the people in this room and have them spoken out loud, please write them in the chat and tell us that you would like them shared out loud, and we will drop a stone for you. Once the verbal sharing is finished, we will then have a time for silent sharing. Aviva will play a hymn through one time, and you can come up and drop a stone, and then we'll all sing the hymn together. So, if you want to share aloud, please take a moment to center yourself and collect your thoughts. We gently ask that what you share this morning is personal, heartfelt, and brief. When you're ready, come forward. join me in closing this sharing time by saying together, Amen and blessed be. Amen and blessed be. Now we will bless our RE kids off to their class by singing the words printed in your order of service.
This is a reading from Subversive Suburban Soul by Victoria Safford. My family's favorite place to view the sunset is a place where the westbound highway meets the main commercial artery of our suburban city. There is a vast expanse of parking lot between the mammoth supermarket and the monstrous home improvement store. It is one deeply unholy place with miles of sprawling strip malls as far as the eye can see, and farther. Yet more than once, on leaving the store, I have all but fallen to my knees there because the sunsets are astonishing, and on evenings when the full moon rises, they are breathtaking. This unlikely and unholy hill offers so startling and memorable a view that one time in the summer, when my family was camping in a far-removed, wild wilderness, watching the sun melt down to the sea, my daughter sighed blissfully, snuggled closer, and said, "Wow, this is so beautiful. This really reminds me of the shopping center on Highway 36. What makes a place a holy place? How much is what is there, and how much is what we bring or what we choose to see?" How I've been told that this parking lot is set upon a hill that not so long ago, perhaps 150 years ago, was in fact a sacred site of the native peoples living on this land, a stopping place between one great river and another. A few remember there was an ancient stand of oaks up there. It is known that the sun went down and heaven and prairie were engulfed each night in flames. It is known that the moon came up in splendor. Beneath the pavement, earth remembers. Everything is gathered in, for it is known, it is remembered, that the holy holds all weeping as well as all celebration, all desecration as well as all tenderness. Everything is gathered in. How could a place once sacred at once be rendered otherwise?
Good morning. So I get no credit for any of this, I'm just reading it. This homily was written and produced by the Reverend Heather Daniels during the pandemic. It was originally shared as a sermon that could be used by congregations who were unable to produce their own virtual services. It's called Mystery's Meeting Place. Worship is a community endeavor. The word liturgy derives from a Greek phrase meaning the work of the people. This engagement, this work, renders a place of worship rich with meaning, considering the poignant human moments that take place in a sanctuary. The rituals, the memorials, the lighting of candles, the gathering in times of fear, of joy, and of sorrow. How can we not understand a place like this is sacred? How can we not experience a place like this as something more than the collection of wood and stone, glass and metal, carpet and furniture that it is? While I have come to appreciate all that takes place in houses of worship, I've been drawn to spaces set aside as sacred long before I became a minister. This fascination with sacred spaces has its origin in childhood memories. For about 2 years, my parents and I lived with my grandparents. I often companioned my grandmother to Mass at her Roman Catholic church, St. Casimir's, the Lithuanian parish in town. To be honest, I didn't enjoy or understand the service. How can a 7-year-old make sense of a phrase like Lamb of God? But I loved the space, the statues of saints brought over from Lithuania, the stained glass, the carvings depicting stations of the cross with captions in Lithuanian that I couldn't read. For some reason, when the small bowl of holy water at the entryway froze in winter, this consecrated water seemed all the more magical. And I had all of these sensory experiences in the company of someone I loved, my grandmother. Much later, when I served a congregation in the Washington, D.C. suburbs, even though the modern and versatile design of the sanctuary was beautiful in its own way, worshiping in that space didn't quite feel right, as it looked so different than what I remembered from St. Casimir's. My reverence for sacred space, what might be called mystery's meeting place, is that ingrained and that strong. But I recently heard 2 stories about what we name as sacred and the spaces that it inhabits that have inspired a number of questions. They affirm what I've come to know about sacred spaces, revered as they are set aside for important moments in life, and, at the same time, not necessarily confined to the walls of the sanctuary, the temple, the mosque, the gates of the shrine. I will now share these stories with you as an invitation to explore these questions in your own minds and hearts and with one another. Before we explore these stories, though, I acknowledge the complexity of reflecting on sacred space within a Unitarian Universalist community. Defined by our theological diversity, I know that together we represent views from ardent atheism and evangelical rationalism to theism and mysticism and everything in between. This makes definition of sacred or mystery subjective, and for some, even the use of these words problematic. But I hope that we can find common ground through the perspective of writer, poet, and ecologist Wendell Berry, who affirms that there are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. I hear in his words and understanding, often affirmed by various indigenous peoples, that all place, every place, is imbued with life and is therefore worthy of our attention, gratitude, and care, lest this renewing spirit be blocked, eroded, or diminished. How we understand the source of this life varies, but I assume that we can agree that the spirit of life with which we all sing with great heart is something worthy of reverence. When Berry attests that there are no unsacred places, Victoria Safford's meditation, Subversive Suburban Soul, comes to mind. While reflecting on the very desecrated place of her local strip of retail stores, which is, paradoxically, also a place with breathtaking sunsets and moon rises, Safford affirms that beneath the pavement, earth remembers everything. Everything is gathered in, for it is known, it is remembered, that the holy holds all weeping as well as all celebration, all desecration as well as all tenderness. Everything is gathered in. The first story to help us explore the meaning of a sacred space is a story of reclamation, of transforming a place of desecration to a place of dignity, shaping not only the physical environment, but how the people of this place act within it. It comes from an episode of the podcast Criminal, titled, He's Neutral. A man named Dan Stevenson and his wife have lived in the same house in Oakland, California for many years. While they love their neighborhood, urban life sometimes comes with challenges. For a long time, they've had to deal with petty crimes like drug use and theft. And Dan says that calling the police often makes things worse, inspiring him, where possible, to adopt a live and let live approach with his neighbors. But there was one thing he could no longer tolerate. The city installed a road divider in front of his house, and this small plot of land became a place where people dumped their trash. And with every dumping, it became a trash magnet, inspiring others to dump even more trash. Signs prohibiting dumping went ignored, and calls to the city went unanswered. Finally, Dan made a decision about what he wanted to do about the trash heap in front of his house. It took some time, but Dan took action, and what he did inspired others to act, and that changed everything. Dan bought a statue of Buddha to install in the lot that gathered. Considering Dan is not Buddhist and has no connection to Buddhism, why Buddha? Unlike a statue of Jesus, Dan says he's neutral. After reinforcing the statue with rebar so no one could steal it, Dan installed the Buddha. And now, in lieu of staring at a pile of garbage, he could look out his window each morning, coffee in hand, and look at Buddha instead. But then sometimes, when he would begin his day with the Buddha statue, Dan noticed some mysterious appearances. Trash to the site, but there were offerings, pears and oranges. One morning, Dan was surprised to see that someone had painted Buddha white. Later, Buddha was painted again, gold this time. And eventually, a small shelter appeared, protecting the Buddha and giving local Buddhist pilgrims a way to comfortably pray in the rain. As time went on, the number of Buddhist devotees grew, coming every day to this former road divider turned trash heap, rendering the space across from Dan's house a sacred site. Feast days attracted even bigger crowds. The community often brings Dan and his wife gifts of food in gratitude for him for installing the Buddha. Despite the language barrier, the devotees speak little English and he speaks no Vietnamese. He tries to communicate that this Buddha is now theirs. In the end, while the correlation is unclear, since the trash dump has become a Buddhist shrine, crime in Dan's neighborhood has decreased by over 70%. When I hear this story, these questions come to mind. What inspired Dan, someone with no ties to Buddhism, to address neighborhood plight by planting a Buddha statue? What did the local Buddhist neighbors make of the statue's mysterious appearance? How did their presence and their prayers and their devotion influence the behavior of others in the neighborhood? I first learned of the second story through the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, an exploration of creativity and spirituality and the bond between the two. She got the story from, I'm going to say this wrong and I'm sorry, Ketut Lair, a Balinese healer and one of Gilbert's mentors. Here's a summary of the other modern parable. The Balinese are known for the beauty of their sacred dances, an art form carefully passed down through the generations with profound dedication to tradition. When Western tourists first began visiting Bali in the 1960s, they were fascinated by these traditional dances. The temples welcomed visitors and the guests were happy to make contributions to the temple in exchange. But while this arrangement worked for a while, in time, the regular presence of outsiders changed the experience of the temple, and some of the temples were remote and rustic, not necessarily the most hospitable of places. The priest decided it would be better if the dancers visited the local resorts and performed there. That way the visitors could experience the dance, and the temples could continue to receive the income from the grateful tourists. This also worked for a time, but then a number of what Gilbert calls high-minded Westerners became concerned that these sacred dances were happening outside the temple, and the tourists feared that this whole arrangement was desecration of the sacred tradition from whence these dances came. So the priest came up with another solution. The dancers would continue to dance, but not the sacred dances. They would draw from their training to develop new dances just for the tourist audiences. The visitors would then be able to experience the dance, and the temples could continue to receive the income from the grateful tourists, and everyone could rest assured that no harm was being done to the holy tradition of Balinese sacred dance. Over the next few years, these silly new meaningless dances became increasingly refined. The young boys and girls grew into them and, working with a new sense of freedom and innovation, they gradually transformed the performances into something transcendent. It appeared that these Balinese dancers, despite all their best efforts to be completely unspiritual, were unwittingly calling down big magic from the heavens anyhow, right there by the swimming pools. All they had to do was entertain the tourists and themselves, but now they were tripping over God and everyone could see it. The Balinese priests, noticing this phenomenon, had a wonderful idea. Why not borrow the new fake dances, bring them into the temples, incorporate them into the ancient religious ceremonies, and use them as a form of prayer? In fact, why not replace some of those old, stale, sacred dances with these new fake dances? So they did, at which point the meaningless dances became holy dances because the holy dances had become meaningless. And everyone was happy, except for those high-minded Westerners who were now thoroughly confused. Because they couldn't tell anymore what was holy and what was profane. It had all bled together. The lines were blurred between high and low, between light and heavy, between right and wrong, between us and them, between God and earth. And the whole paradox was just totally freaking them out. Which I cannot help but imagine is what those trickster priests had in mind the whole time. The first story was a story of bringing sacred into the profane. This story is a story of the sacred communing with the profane, transforming it into something even more profound. Indeed, as Gilbert puts it, it all bleeds together. Where have you seen this transformation in the world? The sacred emerging from the sanctuary, only to make the whole world a temple. How do you hold your traditions lightly enough so that the power of the past and the inspiration of this moment in time are present in equal measure? St. Casimir's, my grandmother's Catholic parish, offers another lesson about the dance between sacred and desecrated space. After my parents and I stopped living with my grandparents, I stopped going to the church, but I heard about life at St. Casimir's at family gatherings. As the migration of Lithuanian immigrants to the area ebbed, and the children of earlier immigrants either left the area or left the faith, the congregation became older and smaller, with more memorial masses than weddings. Amid its slow decline, a local man with mental health challenges responded to the demands of the voices only he could hear. He broke into the sanctuary and smashed most of the statues. Even though I was not a member of that parish, my fascination with those statues as a child inspired me to grieve this great loss and the reality that we live in a world where sacred spaces can be violated. In time, the diocese merged St. Casimir's with St. Patrick's, the Irish Roman Catholic parish. And by then, my grandfather had died, as had many of my grandparents' friends. So my grandmother, who never learned to drive and was likely too infirm to get behind the wheel anyway, was content to worship by viewing Mass on cable television. I guess virtual worshiping isn't quite as new as we think it is. But while the sanctuary of St. Casimir's inspired my love of consecrated space so long ago, is now closed and empty, the parish converted the rest of its campus to affordable housing, transforming their spiritual home into homes for those who needed them. The leaders of St. Casimir reminded me of those Balinese dancers blurring the line between God and earth. Part of spirituality is cultivating awareness that besides the literal walls that surround consecrated spaces, the lines between holy and ordinary are dynamic, and the path between desecrated and sacred is often shorter than we think. We know that leading a faith community has always been a demanding spiritual practice, one that has become significantly more difficult in recent years. For large and small communities alike, new energy and inspiration seems to be coming when people do their work in different ways, in ways that allow a freer communication between what is within and what is beyond the walls of the sanctuary. Like Dan Stevenson, this means bringing the ministry to secular spaces. Like the Balinese dancers, this means welcoming strangers into the temple and allowing that relationship to shape the nature of temple life. What might that look like for us? May we have the wisdom and awareness to recognize this world we live in, this life we have and share, as an ongoing invitation to transformation. For everything is gathered in. For it is known, it is remembered, that the holy holds all weeping as well as all celebration, all desecration as well as all tenderness. Everything is gathered in and remembered. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, for reading that, and thank you, Heather, for writing that. As I said earlier, our offertory today goes to Orange County Justice United. Please donate by placing cash or check in the offering basket. And if by check, please write plate in the memo line. Or you can go to our website, uuchnc.org, and click the donate button. And if you do that, please choose plate. Or you can use the QR code printed in your order of service. Thank you so much for your generosity, and thank you, Alan and Claire.
Listening to the message just now, I was reminded of a good friend who passed a few years ago who said that every time, and I was in a band with him and we played music, and he said every time that a song is played or sung, that it's kind of a sacred place. It's like a little life form. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. And it's similar to other times that it's been played, but it's not exactly the same. Just like a flower, it's not exactly like another one. And I feel like that way about this in particular. This is in a minor key. In banjo we call it A modal. And this is called Falls of Richmond, which refers to the James River that goes through downtown Richmond, and there's a set of falls there, and that's what it's mainly about. It's also kind of unique for the banjo. It's got actually 5 parts, and normally this folk music just has 2. So then this has 4.5, 5 parts, whatever. And the other thing is we haven't practiced this in months. So it'll be its own life form in the repertoire.
Well done. Please join me in offering a blessing for the offertory. The words are in your order of service. For the friends beside us each morning, for the beauty of the day, and for the generous gifts just received, may we be filled with gratitude. Please stand in body or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. It's number 1008 in the teal hymnal, which is the paperback. closing words are by Sarah York. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Please join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, my friends, and blessed be. Who's doing the posture? Oh, you guys.